think Oprah is, deciding that she's not going to run for re-election on the board is a big deal. I can't think of many celebrity brand relationships that are more iconic than her relationship with Weightwatchers. So for her to no longer be on the board, I think investors saw that as a potential concern.
To be fair, and we're going to bring up the chart again for everybody. We just showed it. I mean, the chart of WW shares, what they have done since Oprah came on board, and you could see that uptick. That was shortly after she came on board, hitting a high, and then it's just been kind of a tougher slog, if you will, since then. Madison, come on in on here. We've talked with you too about WW. I mean, they've got a new strategy moving forward.
Right, right. And I think that this is sort of in a time when they are trying to make their brand appear to be relevant still and really get people, signed on to the idea that Weight Watchers is still needed, that it's relevant. Like Oprah leaving at this time is just not it's not good for the image when they're already struggling with their image. It's sort of a double whammy.
You know what's kind of crazy is she's doing exactly, right, Gerry, with what the company's trying to do. They're saying, we're going to embrace these new weight loss drugs. That's what she has done too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the company itself, it's been fascinating how, it's a fundamental shift in how we think about weight loss. And this was a company that really emphasized for years, you can lose weight if you just eat right and you have enough willpower. Yeah, and now, I mean, the arrival of Ozempic and all these weight loss drugs has really forced this company to recalculate.
But it just makes me, like, I'm trying to understand that this is what Oprah's doing. So you would think it would almost make more sense for her to stay because she's used these drugs, gets what the company's doing in kind of this latest brand shift.
Perhaps that's why investors are concerned. If she's not sticking with it, maybe there's a difference in strategy or something that, remains to be seen at this point. Not saying that's happening, but, that could be one of the reasons why the stock is reacting that way. So Madison, talk a little bit about the shift that we're seeing at WW right now, because as Carol mentioned, this is a company known for counting points, I should say, the meetings, the in-person stuff, the line of food. How have the GLP-1s disrupted that?
Yeah, so I mean, Weight Watchers acquired Sequence, which is a telehealth provider, last year. And so what they're trying to do is bring this older, the historic Weight Watchers brand to GLP-1 prescribing and sort of combine them and say, you're still going to have this community, you're still going to get support, behavioral support, medication management, things like that. And have that sort of along with the drug and, have a provider who can help you manage the medications and everything. And so that's sort of been their rebrand. And I guess, I mean, it sort of shows like Oprah is she said that she's taking one of these drugs now. Right. And so her departure from Weight Watchers sort of like proves again that she herself maybe doesn't need those services. I don't know if she said like whether or not she's actually using their product, but a lot of the patients that I've spoken to that are taking GLP-1 drugs are like, we don't feel like we would need something like this. We have that community sort of on social media. We have doctors that can help us manage the side effects or help us manage, the medications in general. So we don't really see the need for something like what Weight Watchers is offering, which is this sort of behavioral support program in tandem with prescribing GLP-1 drugs.
I mean, it's a great question, Gerry. You do wonder, like, what does WW become going forward when the community aspect of this and the platform to support you in your, goal of losing weight, if that goes away, are they just a distributor of drugs, basically, right, of these weight loss drugs? Like, what do they become?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big question is how does this company stay relevant right now? There's analysts who think this market for obesity drugs is going to be huge, but they're not for everybody. And there's people, you take these drugs, but you have to keep taking them over and over. And maybe there's a role for Weight Watchers in the future and just supporting these people who, maybe they don't want to take it for their entire life. But yeah, I mean, that's something this company's really struggling to figure out.
To Gerry's point, Madison, do you think that it's fair to say some critics could argue that investors are kind of putting the cart before the horse here because we don't know? Carol, when I say we don't know, you always point out that these drugs have been around for other uses for quite a bit of time.
So, diabetics have been using,
right, to be fair, but we don't necessarily know when they're used purely for weight loss. Yeah. Not long-term effects, but sort of long-term trends. What needs to be done other support systems that people need.
Right. I mean, that's very true. It's a good point that Gerry brought up, because there's a lot of issues with like long-term durability with these drugs right now. One, because they're very expensive. Not all insurance companies cover them, so some people can't afford them, and then they're forced to go off of the drugs. There's still really widespread supply shortages, which a lot of the doctors I've spoken to have said that continues to be an issue. It's not something that has really gotten any better, and so they're having to take patients off of the drugs, and then these are drugs that are meant to be taken forever, so what happens after that? So like there could still be a place for Weight Watchers,
right?
Maybe that's their sweet spot, but there are so many telehealth companies that are cropping up now to, one, prescribe weight loss drugs, to help with what happens after you go off of weight loss drugs, offering different types of nutrition therapy, things like that. Like, this industry has just gotten more competitive, so they're just going to have more people to face off with.
Well, and Gerry, maybe that played out in terms of the 2024 revenue forecast, right? Because that was a disappointment from WW.
Yeah, their 2024 forecast for sales came in lower than what Wall Street was expecting. So I think it was probably a combination of Oprah's decision to leave the board and the lighter revenue forecast that investors were concerned about. I just think, big picture, it's very hard to be in this business on Wall Street, where we're seeing these companies. Just the other day, a biotech company said that they had good data on an obesity drug, and their stock doubled.
I believe that's Viking Therapeutics,
yeah.
right?
So it's just like we're seeing these enormous swings in share prices based on, are you going to be relevant in the weight loss drug era? Are you not going to be relevant? So I think it's tough for Weight Watchers when, an announcement where Oprah puts out a press release saying she's not going to join, be on the board, and then the stock just gets, hammered.
Madison, go to Viking, though, because, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it does feel like every week or something we're looking at a different company.
Right.
What do we know about that company and kind of their potential role in all of this?
Yeah, I mean, we were looking at that company the other day. I think there's something like 37 employees. It's really small, and this is phase 2 data that we're talking about, so it still has a long way before it actually gets to
for
patients.
Their own obesity drug.
Yes.
But Madison, does it raise the question that the moat that a company like Eli Lilly and that Novo Nordisk would have is not as deep of a moat, given that there is progress being made by these other companies?
Yeah, I mean, there's progress being made by these other companies, and those are sort of making them a possible acquisition target for drug makers that don't have, a presence in weight loss yet. Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, I mean, from the conversations I've had with them, like, their pipelines run very deep, and they are looking at every single thing. Like, they have really early stage, discovery programs, and they're looking at every single thing that these other companies, or they say they are, that these other smaller biotech companies are looking at. But companies like Merck, like Bristol Myers, Pfizer, who sort of need to get into this giant market still, they could, buy one of these smaller companies.
Viking